Hello, welcome, and thank you for watching this month's Tarot Talk. I'm intuitive reader Bryan Stafford from Stafford Tarot, and today's Tarot Talk topic is going to be about full year forecasts. Now, before I get into that Tarot Talk topic discussion, I'm just going to give a little bit of time for some viewers to join me on this live broadcast by talking about what's new at Stafford Tarot and as well as some of those upcoming events to look forward to. And then we'll get into that Tarot Talk topic. And then when we get through that, we're going to be offering, or I'm going to be offering free one card impression polls, as well as a short distant remote reading to the first 6 people in the chat that show interest during this broadcast. So if you're watching this from my website and you're interested just to watch the sample readings, feel free to skip ahead in the video about 20-30 minutes, as I will be offering those free short readings towards the end of the broadcast. But tonight's Tarot Talk topic is going to be about full year forecasts, and I'm really excited about this given the new year. And you know, when we get into January, it's a great time to start making goals and plans for the year ahead, and a full year forecast spread can really help with that using tarot cards, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So first, what's new? Well, at Stafford Tarot, the website is always being updated, so keep watch for all of those changes at www.staffordtarot.com. The website is full of information. I update it regularly and continually add to it, and over time it's become an abundant rabbit hole that you can fall down for anyone who's interested to learn to do tarot for themselves. Now keep watch for more episodes of the Multidimensional Discussions podcast with some new interesting guests speaking about a variety of interesting topics, as well as the AskAGreyWitch.com. I'm really excited about announcing the information pages and blog entry posts have surpassed a combined view of over 10,000. Very proud of this because Stafford Tarot is the supporter of AskAGreyWitch.com, and AskAGreyWitch.com is it's really exciting to mention the amount of support and guidance that it's offered through their website as well as their virtual gatherings. Now, this is the main online support to the Sacred Meadow Circle empowerment groups that I'm a part of, and the virtual gatherings have changed to take place each and every Wednesday starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So very exciting, much more accessible, and you can register to join. Registration helps avoid the insincere entry into those meetings, just maintaining the safe environment. So thank you for your understanding in that, and all the information is available on both the StaffordTarot.com website and the AskAGreyWitch.com website. And check those upcoming event sections on the Stafford Tarot homepage to access all the details and information, including the dates, and you'll be able to see when those events are coming up if you so like to join. So about those upcoming events, of course, as I mentioned, the Sacred Meadow Circle virtual gatherings will be happening Wednesdays. The next gathering will be Wednesday, January 15th, 2025. Starts at 8 p.m. Eastern Time and every Wednesday thereafter. I will be at Soul Intention in Guelph, Ontario on Thursday, January 16th, 2025. I'll be there from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. That is at 497 Woolwich Street in Guelph, Ontario. Contact me to book ahead if you'd like. The store is an amazing metaphysical shop, new to Guelph. They're only a couple months old. Check them out. They're really creating a community hub for spirituality and all sorts of traditions and practices, and they're offering workshops with a variety of practitioners. It's really exciting what's being created there. Check it out if you're in town or close to Guelph, Ontario. Now, my free monthly draw will be happening on Monday, January 20th, 2025 until about 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time to get involved in that. Excuse me. I literally like take all the names, cut them out, put them in a hat, and draw them. I don't, excuse me, I don't video it or broadcast or record the draw, simply because sometimes people come to me for readings confidentially, and I respect that. And so anyone who wins, if you're a winner of the draw, just check your messages. I do respond back to the winners. If you don't hear from me, better luck next time. Again, these draws do happen monthly. And how do you get involved? You simply like, comment, or share any social media that mentions the draw, and you're automatically included in that chance. And then it's a 1 in 5 chance to win. So, you know, there's a good chance that you could be a receiver, and especially if you're getting involved often. Then the New Moon Oracle card pull will be coming out on January 29th, 2025 for that new moon. What this is just a description of a short public general reading that's available based on the energies of the moon at the moment. And it is broadcast available on my website, staffordtarot.com. Excuse me. Now that I've been talking for a while, my throat gets dry and that cough comes in. I am very excited to, looking forward to hosting or facilitating my Intuitive Self Tarot workshop in person, held at Soul Intention in Guelph, Ontario, again, 497 Woolwich Street. And that's going to be held on Saturday, February 1st, 2025. It'll start about 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time and run till about 9 p.m. Eastern Time in person. And then there's an additional component to my workshop where within 2 weeks of taking the workshop, you get an additional opportunity to schedule a included remote short reading session with me to see the technique that was learned in the workshop in action, in real time, given within a reading. And it also gives opportunity for the workshop participants to ask any follow-up questions based on their learning of the process. So I'm really excited for that to take place. You can check out all the details on staffordtarot.com or call to book ahead. The next Tarot Talk Live event will be happening on Tuesday, February 11th, 2025. That starts at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, similar to tonight, except that topic is going to be about conjoint couple readings. It's going to be about, given that we'll be close to Valentine's Day, I'm going to be talking about giving readings to couples together in one session within one reading, and how that works, and maybe give a demonstration of that if we can get a couple viewers, or I'll be demonstrating just a sample or an example on how that works. So that's exciting. Please join me. But tonight's Tarot Talk topic is going to be about the full year forecast. I should also mention just some upcoming future events to look forward to. Luna Events Markets will be starting soon. Very excited about that. I think the first market that I'll be attending will be happening at towards the end of February, so watch for those details as they release on my website. And then I have group event opportunities also available. This is like when people want to host parties or celebrations or special occasions, and you would like a tarot reader at your occasion, or you'd like to do psychic mediumship as a group perhaps. There are all sorts of options available that I do offer for group events. So check out my website for that information and just contact me if you have any questions. The Witches Gathering Conference tickets are available. This is happening May 2nd and 3rd, 2025 in Ancaster, Ontario. I'm really looking forward to this conference gathering. I will be a speaker at that event. I'm giving a lecture on the introductions to witchcraft, and I'll also be offering readings at the event in person, as well as my Learn to Do Self-Tarot workshop. lots of opportunity available to learn for yourself as well as get those readings. And I will be offering, it's worth mentioning that I will be offering the Learn to Do Self Tarot workshop online for anyone who wasn't available to participate in person, and that will be happening on May 16th, 2025. It'll start about 8 p.m. and the early bird fee will be available up until April 21st, 2025. So again, all that information is available on my website, staffordtarot.com. If there are any questions at all whatsoever, please feel free to enter them into the chat. I should mention that sometimes it does take some time for me to see the messages as they come up. I will be watching for them, so please have patience with me as we get through the technology that's being used. It takes about 20 or 30 seconds sometimes by the time you've entered it in for me to see it as it pops up on my side of the screen. So if you're watching this, just let me know if you're interested by writing interested in the chat if you'd like to receive a free reading after we talk about that Tarot Talk topic. So that Tarot Talk topic, full year forecasts. How is this important? Why would you want to do a full year forecast? Whenever I get asked to do any kind of forecast that involves looking into the future or how things will happen, what is the turnout of X, Y, Z, I often will say to people, I always say to people that the future is liquid and nothing is solidified until the here and now, and we're experiencing it or we're going through it, or when things are set in motion. And not everything is set in motion all the time. Some people believe in fate and destiny, but those paths still come together in order for us to walk them. And so I always keep in mind that when I do future forecasts for myself and for others, there is an understanding that things can change. And this is actually what I find helpful about doing a full year forecast, and I'll talk a little about that in a moment. But first, I just want to give that kind of heads up to some people who think that a full year forecast is very defined and definite. For example, if I'm doing a future forecast of any style, and I don't agree with, or I don't want to say I don't associate with the card. I associate with the message, but I don't like where it says I'm headed. It is up to me at that point to consider those possibilities and how that could be changed between this time and the time that could happen. And that can be considered simply by tentatively flipping the card within the reading and looking at those possibilities. Now, when I talk about tentatively flipping cards within readings, I'm not talking about changing the forecast or the outcome of the reading. What I'm really referring to is looking at the potential within the reading, the possibilities for the change in the future, because that future is liquid and nothing is set in stone until we've made those decisions for ourselves. So we need to keep that in mind in any reading that involves predicting the future. Now, the difference between a prediction and a forecast is that, exactly as I've mentioned, a forecast is more of a general guideline on how things look from this point on. A prediction would be looking more for that definitive answer. And so just to keep that in mind of the differences, I'm referring to that full year forecast. And we'll talk more about how that is beneficial. I'm going to actually get into a sample spread, and we'll talk about how that can be used to gain insight and new perspectives as we make plans into the new year. Now, hi everybody. I do see some viewers jumping on to see me. I really appreciate you joining me, and I see some messages there. I just want to say hi back to everybody. And absolutely, I already have some requesting readings. I'm just going to write those names down in the orders that I see them. So Elizabeth, you'll be my first reading. And then Lindsay, you'll be after Elizabeth. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. And anyone else who's interested to receive a reading tonight, just write interested in the chat, and I will add you to the list. I have 4 spots available. I do only offer up to 6 short readings because each reading takes about 15 minutes, and so I try to limit my online lives events to about under 2 hours. I think that that's reasonable, and so anyone who's interested to join that list, just let me know. And if you, for whatever reason, don't get in that list, if we receive technical problems with the chat or perhaps I missed your message, just notify me, let me know right away afterwards even, and I will reconcile that with a free short reading. And anyone who doesn't get on the list because I reach my cap of 6 people, I will add you to the draw happening on Monday, January 20th. So still lots of opportunity for you to receive a free reading if you don't get into my list tonight. And thank you so much. And so, and also if there's any questions about full year forecasts or anything regarding this topic, please feel free to add that in the chat as well, and we can expand on that learning and knowledge for everybody. So, some of the benefits of a full year forecast would be to consider the possibilities moving forward and what you may be up against. We really gain the insight and perspective on how we relate the messages to the cards to our lives. And when we do a future forecast for as big as a year or as far as a year into the future, it's really about having that consideration on what the cards could mean and how they associate with our plans and our future and what we have for ourselves now and how we look at that perspective from this point, if that makes sense. So what I thought I would do is I would just run through a quick year forecast for myself. I have done this before on a previous Tarot Talk live event quite a long time ago, actually. I've been doing these lives for a couple years now, and I think it's helpful to expand on that a little further. And so what I'm going to do is, first of all, I usually only take about 10 minutes to talk about the Tarot Talk topic. And it takes about an hour to get through a full year forecast when I do the spread and really get into those details. We're not going to go through the entire year in this sample. What I am going to do, though, is look at we're going to narrow in on parts of the year. And this is another way that it can be helpful, when you do a full year forecast and you keep in mind the part of year that you want to investigate or look into, narrowing in on that time of year can be important, especially if you're planning a travel, if you plan to move at a certain time, or if you know an event is coming, or perhaps you just want to see how your birthday turns out this year. There's many different ways and reasons why you might want to just peek into the future and see what's happening for yourself and what that perspective looks like from this point, and help you make those changes and guide yourself moving forward. So how I do this is I start in the beginning of the year. So the first card that comes out is really January, February, March, April, May, June, July. What I have now is half a sphere with each card representing half the year so far. And each card should have a represented message for that time period or for that month. Now, there's 2 ways of doing a full year spread. One way is to do it the way that I'm doing it today, which is to create a circle of cards, each one representing that time period from beginning of month to the end of month. There's also a way of doing this where you're not following the calendar months, you're following the zodiac time period. So you're looking at the time frames of the zodiac, which would start in Aquarius and move through the zodiac of the star signs. Or you can even do it through moon phases. The differences between full moons and the portion of time between each full moon can be represented by the cards. So that could start with the cold moon, and then the second card could be the wolf moon, and you would go through the year in that way. Now, I chose to do this through the calendar months simply because it's a little more understandable for more viewers, for those who may not be so inept in zodiac or astrology. So I think it's important to give a way of showing an example that everyone can relate to most. And so I kept in mind that during my shuffle proceeding through this layout. So let's say I want to narrow in on what my summer is going to be like. I have some exciting plans coming up for the summer, and I want to know what kinds of challenges I'm going to have, not only for that time period, but leading up to that time period. How can I plan best for my plans for the upcoming summer? Now, that's about in 6 months, so there's quite a range of time between then, and there's a lot that can happen between then, and I can use that consideration within the messages of the cards here in my full spread forecast. Now, remember, I started in January and worked my way through, so February, March, April, May, June. Start looking through May and June. Looks like in May I'm going to be making some really strong financial decisions leading towards that summer. This is the King of Pentacles. It represents that exact, sitting in the throne of the king, making those financial decisions. The king throne and the coin is also really standing out for me, so I do think it's more about prosperity than it is about health. It's more about money needs as opposed to the health needs. And into June, it looks like I'm taking action that's passionate. Leading into July, it looks like I avoided some sort of confrontation or struggle where my actions are up against other people's actions. So it looks like I may be making the right action here, leading towards my plans into the summer. Now, this is all supposed to take place in July and August. And what I love about this is in July, I have this avoiding confrontation. So I must be making the right actions or making the right decisions to make this happen for myself. Because by August, there's this new way of prosperity. And what's really standing out for me is the yard and the sort of hedge, fence, and gateway through the bottom. And so this is about security and foundation and where I'm at. And that goes hand in hand with the plans that I have for myself. And so say if I wanted to go through each card throughout the entire year and check my entire year forecast, I could do that, definitely. Now, one of the reasons why this takes so much time is because the spread is inconclusive. I can now get advice and suggestions for each month leading towards the year simply by drawing out another card. And I'm going to use the same deck. You can switch through a trans-dimensional reading and have a separate deck to give that advice, but I'm going to use the same deck. I usually do use the same deck. If I use another deck, I would extend further from this point because this would be the full spread. Now there's quite a lot of cards on my table now. I'm now looking at 24 cards. The first card that's laid down underneath each card is the message for that month. The second card laid down on each month is the advice that can go towards that month. So as I look through those financial decisions in May, the advice for me is don't look at this like security grounding. Things are going to get shooken up. Things are going to, these decisions that I have to make are probably going to shake things up, kind of stir a lot of stuff around. It looks like I'm in for some changes and probably a lot of work's going to need to be done. Now, in terms of the action that I'm taking moving after that, I'm relieving a whole lot of stress through these actions and decisions that are about to be made. And so I think that I am going to be taking the right action on that. Now, what I find fascinating about how I avoid all this confrontation, the advice is for me to not take swift action, to really sit back, consider all the details, take my time, and make the right choice for myself. And in terms of that acquiring that prosperity towards the end of the summer, according to my plans, I am no longer the student. I have a lot to learn on this, and I'm going to become the master of that and no longer be the student. And so that would tell me that there's still some things to learn moving up to this. But I really appreciate the forewarning of how much work this is going to be, how much action, and that I'm going to have to work through these heavy thoughts as I approach the summer. Now, again, I could go through that advice throughout the whole year. I could have started in January and went my way all through. What I could also do is look at an overview of the entire year based on what's on the table. So, you know, some of the cards that stand out for me most as the advice cards that are on top, or some of the messages that might stand out for me most from the month cards. Each is significant, and I suggest not to ignore any of that. If anything stands out for you, it's probably a more important or needed to hear message. I do hope that this makes sense and that this example, very quick example, is helpful to anyone who may be interested to try and do some self-readings for yourself. Now, if you're just starting out, I don't recommend doing something as complicated as a full year forecast, simply because the amount of cards, the amount of messages can be overwhelming for somebody who's just getting started with those relationship building with the cards. I would always suggest starting with a 1-card pull or a 3-card draw, which is much more simple until you get used to that and move forward. It really depends on the relationship that you create with your deck. But I think it's important not to just jump right into really complicated spreads. There are other kinds of spreads that can be used to do a full year, such as a compass spread style, which shows a card for each element or direction, so the actions that we take and the thoughts and the emotions and the needs for ourselves, and then it goes into the full year, and that can get quite complicated. This is a 24 card spread, just going through the year with one message a month and getting advice for that. There are other ways to get more in depth into these readings, and I suggest that you work up to those complicated spreads. Yes, Lindsay, thank you for that comment. It is really like a reef of cards, and what I like about that pattern, or that perspective that you gave, is that sometimes you can take a step back and look at the entire reef, the entire circle of cards, and get get influenced by the messages in the cards that appear at once. You know, what's the overall impression of the year? When I look at the way my year forecast has come out here, my year starts out difficult and slowly gets better and leads towards this challenge. I also note that after the challenge and after the summer, there are some important decisions that seem to be made, and that leads to ending out the year more with some healing and grounding and looks like some new perspective taking. And that leads me up to the Star card, which is all about empowering myself. So I see this year as being a typical 9-year, if that makes sense. I'm going to put in the work to reach that goal and get to the destination that I intend. Now, what I want to keep in mind, I remember how I was saying earlier, when you look at a forecast, we can look at which cards could possibly be flipped. And so I think the card that I may want to consider is that thinking of myself as no longer being the student, the master in this, towards this realization of prosperity of some kind. I want to be sure that I'm not just going to be overconfident about this and miss something. So if I flip this card around and still see myself as the student, there might be things I need to learn more. I might investigate further with that mindset. That's really what I'm referring to. So I could look at the potential of having this card not reversed in terms of having that extra support available to me, perhaps. Or maybe I need to be sure I've noticed everything, or that I've gone over all the details. Then that card can be flipped around, when I can be confident that I know I've nothing else to learn. Excuse me, sorry. I hope that makes sense. Again, In flipping over the cards, in no way am I trying to change the message of the reading or change the advice of the reading. What I'm looking at is the potential of such, and I don't leave that card improperly flipped. I always return it back to the way it appeared on the table. Now, I do use reversal cards in my tarot readings, and some prefer not to, and some prefer to use them. I tend to use them depending on my relationship with each deck. I am a trans-dimensional tarot reader, which means that I look at several dimensions of different decks within one tarot session. And so some decks I'm comfortable using reversal cards with, and some decks I'm not so much. And that's just based on my relationship that I've built with that deck. And there's nothing wrong with following reversals or not in your own practices. If you do self-tarot and you decide that you don't want to use any reversals at all, then so be it. I mean, the messages are going to be precise to you as you intend from the cards, the way that the cards are charged as they're being shuffled. As long as you're not changing your mind midway through the shuffle, that's really the important key, is keeping focus of what you intend throughout the session. So you can't change your focus. You also can't change, if you do this spread slowly, where you start to look at how the year is forming as the cards come out. I like to pull out the first 6 cards, stop, reflect, and then pull out the second half of the year, stop and reflect. You can do this in quarters as well, which is sometimes more appropriate to do because it's less overwhelming. You're really working through 4 cards at a time before you move on to the next 4, or 3 cards at a time for the year, and then 4 cards for a different pattern. But there's different ways of breaking down the year, is what I'm really saying. Different ways of breaking it down so it's not so overwhelming, where you pull out the entire year and you're looking at the overall forecast. Can be hard to then narrow in on specific months. So just take your time. This isn't something that I would rush through, even though I did rush through it for this sample. But this is, like I said, this normally takes an hour to go through in depth, and you want to be able to take that time to go through the messages and see how they mean to you. Well, thank you so much. If anybody has any questions about that or doing a full year forecast, please write them in the chat. I can answer questions at any time, and I'm just going to put these cards away. I'm just doing some last minute reflection on it. One of the other things that I notice is that a lot of the cards are upright at this time of this portion of the year, and they go reversed at this time of the year. And so I see this as being more the harder time of the year. Coming out of the spring and into the summer is going to be a challenge. It's going to be a challenging time of year, and it looks like the year gets better as I come out of the summer and into that autumn and towards the winter. So I'm going to keep that in mind as I go forward, and I'm going to one of the things that I can do is I can look back at this broadcast, I can look back at this recording later in the year and see how this turned out. Where does this reflect? I know I only discussed a portion of the year, but when I look back at how that portion of the year went for me, I can gain that insight and perspective. I also feel like it's important that I can also note the changes that were made to avoid or maybe not have it go so bad or not so challenging, I should say. But the ways in which some things have been changed because of the insight that I gained from this reading. Thank you for that comment, Elizabeth. I really appreciate that question. Your question was posted as, do you find that cards tend to change throughout the year based on your experiences? Absolutely. They also can change based on giving you a different perspective of looking at the same thing. So even though sometimes cards change, it doesn't necessarily mean that the message has changed or that the message was wrong that you received in the previous time. One of the things that I don't recommend is, if I do a full year forecast, I'm not going to put the cards away, reshuffle them, and do another full year forecast to see how the messages change. I think if you start to do that, where you're not trusting in the messages of the cards will no longer guide you in the same way. You really have to have that confident relationship with your cards and trust the messages are what you are intended to receive. Otherwise, what are you doing tarot for if you don't trust in the messages of the cards? It sounds more like just an entertainment or a game at that point. And for me, although I do find tarot cards entertaining, I also find them to be very insightful and very useful in terms of pulling those messages out from deep within. They really are a useful tool for me within my own shadow work, and also within my own self-reflection, and which is why, because I find it so helpful in that way, which is why I offer it out to so many others. So to answer your question, Elizabeth, sorry, I feel like I went off track. To answer your question, yes, the cards would probably tend to change throughout the year, and for two reasons. One reason is that, as I said, the cards may give a different perspective on that same topic or message. Also, if you've made changes, if you do a full year forecast and you go through your life and you're making changes based on that information, and then in a couple months you do another full year forecast and it says something different for the upcoming months, it could be you could be seeing the result of those changes that you've made. And so, as I've said, future forecasts are never set in stone and meant to be followed to a T. It's meant to give you a perception of this point of the session, from the point of the tarot reading, looking at the future. The decisions that you make between now and then can change the direction that you're taking. If you decide not to follow through with the path that's suggested in the cards, for example, you can make the changes to avoid that. So it's really up to you. Everybody has their own free will, and free will cannot be controlled by anyone else other than ourselves. And we can even choose ourselves not to follow through with our fate or destiny. For those of you who believe in having a destiny or something that could be fate to have happen, it's our choice to follow through with that. Whether we follow that urge or we ignore it is part of our free will. And it's a common belief that when we ignore it and we don't follow through with those life path expectations or goals, we tend to repeat it. If you believe in reincarnation, you tend to repeat it throughout each lifespan. And so, me personally, with my own views, I tend to look at the here and now of even consciousness, and so it's really about setting that mindset for yourself. I do hope that's helpful. Let me know if anyone has any questions in the chat. We can get started on those free short readings in just a moment. Feel free to do some investigating and look up some tarot spreads. Learning new tarot spreads can be helpful. They can be tweaked and adjusted to suit your own style of reading. And like I said, as long as you're keeping in mind what you're doing from beginning to end, and not changing the expectation of the reading throughout. Excuse me. I'm sorry, that must sound horrible. I fixed my mic. Excuse me. My throat's getting dry now. I was very excited. I fixed my mic. I'm hoping that you can hear me better tonight. I'm just clearing this deck so we can get ready for those readings. Now, as I mentioned, I always start my readings with a one-card impression pull from this deck, and that just lets me know where you're sitting energetically in the moment. And then I'll move to this deck, and that's when you'll have an opportunity to ask me a question or give me a topic to focus on, or a lot of times readings can be left general to get those messages that just need to be received. So it's up to you if you want to leave it general, if you have a topic or question you'd like me to focus on. For a short reading, like I said, I start with a one-card impression pull, and then I move to this deck. And when I focus on your topic or question, I'll do a 3-card pull, and we'll just look at how those cards generally speak to each other to receive those messages. And then we can extend further into another deck. As I said, I'm a trans-dimensional tarot reader, so we're going to look into the other dimension of another deck, depending on where you'd like to go further, or I could make a suggestion based on what could be helpful due to how the cards have been, due to how the messages are coming out in the cards. I hope that makes sense. Each reading takes about 15 minutes, and so Lindsay, I'll start with Elizabeth, and then after that, Lindsay, you'll have about a 15-minute wait. And anyone else who wants to get involved in the readings, just write interested in the chat, and I'll add you to the list, and there'll be about a half-an-hour wait. So Elizabeth, when you're ready to get started, just let me know if you have a topic or question you'd like me to focus on, or I can leave it general, as I mentioned. Right now, I'm just focusing on that 1-card impression pull, and I'm just using my Rider-Waite deck, Rider-Waite-Smith deck. This is my first deck that I acquired long ago. It was given to me when I was 12 years old. Someone actually came up to me and said, "Oh, I can't do this. I can't figure it out. I just, you try." And they gave it to me. And I was overwhelmed at first, and it took me a couple years to figure it out. And I started giving readings to myself and others when I was 15, and learned to start doing self-readings, and then started giving readings to others. And I really encourage that route for anyone who's interested to learn to do this for themselves, because you learn your own associations before you're given associations. And I think that that's really important. If you're only given associations, you're told what the cards mean, and you don't create that relationship with the cards to know what they mean, the readings just may not be as impactful. And that's what I found. Once I started following my intuitive sense on the messages of the readings were much more impactful, much more meaningful to not only myself, but to the sitters of my readings. And so just keep that in mind, that even with tarot, each card has meaning, but if we don't follow our intuitive sense, what you're really getting is the reading of the creator of the cards, not the reading of the tarot reader or the cartomancer who's using the cards. Thank you, Elizabeth. Absolutely. You are third in my list. And anyone else who's interested, just let me know. Now, for Elizabeth, I have the 8 of Wands reversed. Now, Wands in tarot represent the actions that we take, and 8 in numerology is often about reaching success, finding a way of getting to the goal or the outcome. And when it's reversed, it doesn't mean you're not going to reach that success. What it means is that the path there has suddenly become jumbled. It's like someone took all of your rods and threw them up in the air, and they're all landing wherever they land, and you just kind of have to do them as they land. It's like you have this list of tasks that you have to complete, and the order in which has been jumbled, or you just have to do the tasks in the way that they need to be done. They may have a specific order to them, but that's not what the order in which you have to do them, and so that can become frustrating. It can become overwhelming. Just keep in mind that as you start getting through those tasks and you complete those objectives, that's when this card starts to turn around, and you start to see the perspective of starting to have these tasks organized and in a row and ready to continue forward. Hi, Megan. Thanks so much. Absolutely. I will add you to the list for a free reading. So this is a reading for Elizabeth, and then I'll do a reading for Lindsay, and then Melissa, and then Megan, and anyone else who's interested, just let me know. I should also mention that anyone who gets on the list now has about an hour wait from this point. So just be patient, stay with us on the call, enjoy some of the messages of the other readings, and I will get to you I will go in the order in which people have got my attention. And as I said, anyone that I may have missed, just reach out to me, let me know ahead of time. Feel free to repeat that request in the chat if I haven't noticed or haven't mentioned you. Also, I will be reviewing this after to check and make sure that I haven't missed anyone, and I will be reaching out to anyone who I notice that I miss as well. So Elizabeth, in your energy, you have this these wands that seem to need to be in a certain order, and things got jumbled around, and that's why it came out reversed for you. I hope that that makes sense. Let me know if you have questions about that. Thank you for letting me know that you'd love a general reading, please. Absolutely. So Elizabeth, I'm just going to focus on that general reading for you. I'm going to pull 3 cards and we'll just look at how they speak to each other. I feel like it's already ready to go here. Really interesting cards. First thing that comes to me when I look at these cards that stands out is that they're all swords. Now, swords in tarot represent heavy thoughts and intellect. One's reversed and 2 are not. And so with 3 cards being, I feel like there's like a back and forth on these thoughts. And I'll talk about that in a moment. But I feel like that is having to do with this indecision that's happening based on this heavy thought that's on your mind. This is the King of Swords reversed. Now, kings tend to be the decision makers in tarot. Kings tend to be more forceful, direct decisions, and there are often consequences involved in making these kinds of decisions. And when it's reversed like this, it usually represents either not being able to sit in the king's throne or not wanting to sit in the king's throne to make these decisions. These could be important decisions that have consequences that are like, oh, do I really want to make this decision? You know, I have this dread feeling that comes with this card. Now, Elizabeth, that doesn't mean that you won't be able to make that decision. It means that you need to solve what you're missing. Perhaps you need more information, or perhaps there's something that needs to happen first before you can make this decision based on what's heavy on your mind. And when you do that, that's when this card potentially flips around and you're now sitting in the throne's position, or in the king's throne position. You're making these decisions and moving forward with that heavy thought that's on your mind, where there could be consequences that you'll have to deal with, but it's the best choice for you. Right now it looks like this. You need to solve what's holding you back. Now, the next card is the 7 of Swords. It did not come out reversed, and this card often represents somebody from the way that it's coming out now. The impression of this card often represents somebody who is carrying too much on your mind, and you have to decide how much you carry and how much you put behind. What is worth your attention and what isn't worth your attention. And those heavy thoughts that are not worth your attention are probably just not needing your attention at this time, or they can be put down for a moment so that you can focus more on other topics or other heavy thoughts. You can see here that this person has decided to carry more or less, and he's left some behind, and he's taken these discrete ones with him. I think that it's important, and what's really standing out for me is how some of these thoughts are shadowed. I think that you're really keeping this to yourself. I think this is heavy on your mind in particular, and how you're affected by how much you're thinking about this. It seems to be a lot on your shoulders. Now, this leads into a really hard conversation to have. So Elizabeth, there's going to be some sort of conversation around you that's going to be difficult for you to have or hear. See how the 3 of Swords, 3 in numerology is often about communication, and swords represent heavy thoughts and intellect. You can see what these heavy thoughts are doing to this sword, or this heart. The swords are literally piercing the heart. And so I see this as being a hard conversation to have. Now, when you have that conversation, that's when this card flips around and you can then put it behind you. Sometimes the card flips around if we're able to avoid having that conversation where it's really hard to have, or the conversation doesn't turn out as hard as you first expected it to be. Right now, the card looks like this. This looks like and appears to be a hard conversation to have. Now, sometimes this is a hard conversation to have with ourselves, and I'm wondering if that's the case, simply because you have this King of Thrones, the King of Swords throne being reversed. If you are holding yourself back, if this conversation is for you and you can have it and put it behind you, this card flips around as well, and you're now making those decisions. I'm wondering if this is relatable. Do you understand what I'm talking about here, Elizabeth? Let me know if you can understand or relate to these messages, and if you have any questions. I am wondering how I can extend on this question further, or this reading further. Given that this is all heavy thoughts, I'm wondering if I can extend further using my shaman deck. Now, this deck gives great insight in terms of finding the right energy for ourselves, and I think that that might be helpful given this seems to be a lot on your mind and a lot that you're going through, and this deck is just calling to me for that. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for that message of confirmation that yes, this makes perfect sense. I appreciate that. Lets me know that I'm on the right track. That's the difference between a distant remote reading and a remote reading. In my opinion, a remote reading is more one-on-one, like over Zoom or a teleconference call, where you have that interaction. You can ask questions and give your opinions and input during the reading, whereas a distant remote reading is more one-sided. I'm basically gaining a topic or question and then delivering all the messages, and there's less opportunity to get that interaction. I also offer distant remote readings as a subscription where people send to me the topic or question, and then I send it back to them as a recording stored in a cloud storage online, and they can access that recording at the convenience of their own time. Or depending on the subscription, it can be delivered on a specific date. I've done that for someone who had a daughter who was getting married, and so they pre-ordered a reading forecast for that relationship, and it was delivered on their wedding day, and that was quite a lovely gesture. So, Elizabeth, I'm focusing on your reading now and how I can extend on this further. And I'm just asking this deck basically what you need for yourself to get through this heavy, challenging, these thoughts process. Now, I'm going to pull 3 cards. I just feel drawn to it. I was thinking 1 card, but when I started pulling out cards, the deck was just like, no, you're not done. Pull out more cards. So, okay, here we go. Got to follow through with that intuitive sense in the moment. I'm just going to go in the order that they came out. They're really interesting cards to come out. And I think they're really inspiring messages, actually. I really like the way that this has come out for you, Elizabeth. Given how challenging, this hard conversation and carrying all these thoughts on your shoulders and then these heavy decisions that can't be made yet, we have the Circle card. And the Circle card is often about finding support of people around you. Who's in your circle of care? Who's in your support group or your support circle? And you might be able to rely on some of that support. Now, I'm not talking like, if you need financial support, go to get a loan. I'm talking about advice, suggestions, experience that can be shared. That's the kind of support that usually comes from a circle. And so just keep that in mind. What this card coming out could mean that you could find success, given that it's an 8 here. In numerology, it often means reaching that success or goal. And this could mean that how you find your success is being supported by looking at that circle of care that you have around you. That tells me that there could be people around you that you could connect with, perhaps, that are in your and the life now that may be willing or able to support you that you may not be reaching out to, or it's telling me that you're not utilizing some of the supports that are around you. Now, the next card I want to talk about is the 23rd card of this Oracle deck. 23 in numerology breaks down to a 5 for me, which is often about making a choice, and it's the giveaway card reversed. And this is basically saying don't give away. Be reserved. Don't protect yourself. Don't just give yourself away. Don't give away if you have a talent or skill or something that this heavy thought is based on. I don't think you want to give away these ideas. Whatever these heavy thoughts are about, you want to keep it to yourself. Work through that for yourself. I think that that's an important process in this. The next card is the Spiral card reversed. Again, 50 in numerology breaks down to a 5, which is often about that choice. And it's about not being confused, being able to see things clearly. Don't get lost in the facade that could be happening around you. What this tells me is that the way you are thinking about this is probably correct for you. I don't think you need anyone else telling you how to think about this. I think you've given it a lot of thought. You have all the swords on the table. So this is really what you're needing to hear about. Now, what I find interesting about this reading so far is you have swords, you have wands, no pentacles, no cups have appeared on the table, and it can sometimes be just as helpful to look at what doesn't appear as what does, because what does appear are the messages you needed to receive. So Elizabeth, you needed to receive messages in regards to these swords, these heavy thoughts that are on your mind, and what the actions are that you're taking in the moment. But no messages in return in regards to cups, which is all about the emotional process that's involved, and pentacles, which is often about our needs for ourselves. What that tells me is that you understand your needs. You understand your emotions. If you didn't, you would have cups and pentacles all over the table. Because you don't have any here, that tells me that you're probably very secure in what you need for yourself. You probably find the healing through the process of what you're going through. And that tells me as well that you probably have a lot of strength and determination and endurance to get through this time of heavy thoughts. I do hope that this is helpful. Elizabeth, let me know if there's any questions, or if any of this didn't make sense. Okay, and I'll start to put away the cards, and then I'll move on to Lindsay. I'll do your reading next, and then after Lindsay will be Melissa, and then Megan, and then I have 2 more spots available. If anyone's interested, just let me know in the chat during. I'll just cleanse and decharge the cards and get them ready for my next reading. Oh, thank you for that feedback, Elizabeth, that it's very helpful. I do appreciate knowing that. I do hope to be helpful in my readings, so thank you. Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you so much for that, Lindsay. Absolutely. I'll give you a general reading as you've requested. I'm just going to start with a 1-card impression pull from this deck, similar to what I did. And hi, Meg. I will definitely put you down as a reading. Now, Megan, there will be about a 45-minute wait for your time, so just stay with us as we go through the readings. I'm going to work on Lindsay's reading, and then Melissa, and then Megan, and then Meg. And anyone else who may be interested, I do have 1 more spot left to receive that free reading tonight. And if you were interested and someone else gets in that list and I reach my cap, I will be adding anyone else to the draw happening on Monday, January 20th. So I'm focusing on Lindsay right now. Lindsay, I'm connecting with your energy, and I'm just charging this deck for a 1-card impression pull, just giving me the impression of your energy. And what I get for you is the Knight of Pentacles. It did not come out reversed, and here's the way the card looks. Now, the Knight of Pentacles is often about taking action based on what you need for yourself. And what's really standing out for me in the card is the horse. Excuse me. Now, Knights in Tarot represent the action takers. They are the ones that get the ball rolling in all the actions that of the decisions that the King and Queen make in the Court of Tarot. And so I just want to point out that these are actions that bring healing of some kind. I'm trying to determine whether it's health or prosperity. I feel like they could be interconnected. But it's the horse that's standing out for me in the card, as well as the coin. And so that's where I'm getting a mixed message here. It's almost like they're related to each other, like prosperity and health being intertwined. One without the other doesn't work. And in this action that needs to be taken, let me know if that makes sense to you, Lindsay. But quite often when the horse stands out for me, it's really not so much about the decision of action that needs to be made, but just getting to the action that's put ahead of you. It's almost like you don't need to decide. You already know what needs to happen. It's just a matter of getting on and doing it. Does that make sense for you? I feel like the horse also, you need to sort of follow your instincts and know when to take action and when not to take action. I almost feel like the horse has stopped, and this doesn't normally stand out for me on this card, but it almost looks like it stopped to avoid going into water or over a cliff. And so just keep that in mind. That's where I'm getting the impression that it could be about deciding when to take this action and when not. There could be some specific timing involved in this. Thank you for that confirmation, Lindsay. That makes sense. I appreciate that. Now I'm just focusing on a 3-card pull with this deck for a general reading as you requested. And I'm just going to let the cards speak together to get those messages. Oh, very specific order indeed. Now, 3 cards that have come out are really interesting. 2 are reversed and 1's not. We have a wand, a sword, and a higher arcana. Usually the higher arcana are the more important themes around the reading itself, or the more important message. I'm going to work my way towards that. The first card I'm going to talk about is the 2 of Wands being reversed. Now, 2 in numerology is often about partnership or indecision. I feel like there's a bit of both in this somehow. Wands represent the actions in tarot, and so it's about the actions that you take in regards to this partnership or indecision. And the reason why I'm calling it indecision as opposed to a decision is because it is reversed. Now, normally the card looks like this, and it means choosing between 2 actions and having to foresee how the action affects you before you decide. So it's almost like in order to choose that action, you have to know where it leads in order to choose it. When it's reversed like this, it often means that you're unable to make that choice. Like you can't see where this projects to. And so I would just watch for that. Just a moment. I'm getting a battery warning. That's concerning. Hopefully I don't die on the call. I'll just continue on. We'll get through this. So keep that in mind, Lindsay. There's something that may be preventing you from making some sort of decision, and part of that is knowing how the actions will lead you forward. It's like hard to know if you make this choice, what will that mean, or where will that lead? And so eventually you may need to create more clarity for yourself. Look at where the actions will lead, and that's when this card will flip around, when you understand the action that you need to take in order to get to that specific outcome. In the meantime, it looks like this. It's reversed. Now, the next card I want to focus on is the Queen of Swords. It did not come out reversed. This card looks like this. And again, sword, heavy thoughts and intellect. Queens are the decision makers in the tarot, the court. Queens are more nurturing and caring decisions. They're often decisions that impact people around us or others. And with swords, it's often based on heavy thoughts, whatever's on your mind that's heavy on your mind. And because it didn't come out reversed, I think you're capable and able to make this decision. I think you may be sitting in the Queen's throne at the moment to make these decisions, or you're able to sit in that throne to make these decisions. And that leads us up to the Lover's card reversed. Now, the Lover's card doesn't always represent people, or relationship or spouses. It can really represent anything that we love. What this tells me is that this is about something passionate. This is about something that you find passionate, and when it's reversed, it means that you're held back from that passion. Almost like the outcome is not what you would like for this, or having difficulty watching things unfold in a way that you don't anticipate, expect, or would like to see happen. Sometimes this card can come out for when we see someone else go through a really hard time and you think that's just not right, it's so unfair. You feel for them. And that's the kind of sense I'm getting from this card. But I also feel like it's not just about someone else, it's about yourself as well. And so that's where we get you sitting in this Queen of Thrones to make these decisions, even though it's this kinds of hardship feeling that's going on. Thank you for that confirmation message there, just making so much sense and makes so much sense. I really appreciate knowing that I'm on the right track here. This does not seem like an easy course, Lindsay. In fact, this seems like a very challenging time. Now, one of the things that I think is positive about the way these messages have come out is that your Queen of Swords in the center here is not reversed. And so that, for me, says that you are able and capable of sitting in the throne of the Queen of Swords. So there, I think you have what it takes. I think there's this strength to you that you can rely on. Stick to that thought process and just follow your instincts. I'm wondering how I can extend on this further. This seems like a very personal endeavor, and with the Lover's card being reversed, that can often be very challenging. And so I'm going to ask my heart chakra deck for some advice moving forward. Now, I like this deck. I use it quite often because it gives great insight in terms of what people need for themselves. It often gives the perspective from the heart chakra itself. And so if I focus on that into this reading, it may give you good insight moving forward, almost like advice. Absolutely, Lindsay. In this reading, you are the Queen of Swords. Sitting in that throne, mind you. Stay on the table. Now, really interesting, you got two higher arcana cards bookending this spread, or this reading, with middle card being a grounding card. The suit around, the color around the border tells me that it's an earth tone, which is often associated with Pentacle and Tarot, and this is the card. It is the Share the Love reversed. And when we get this Share the Love reversed, it often represents, it doesn't mean that you don't share the love. What it really means is putting that love and attention on yourself, and not, don't expect it to be from other people. Give yourself that appreciation, give yourself that self-love and respect. 3 in numerology is often about communication, and when we communicate what we need for ourselves, it's usually about getting that support and guidance from others. When the card looks like this normally, it's about receiving that guidance. When the card looks like this, it's about not receiving that guidance. It's not about finding guidance from outside, it's about supporting yourself. Quite often it's about giving yourself that self-love and healing, time to heal. So just keep that in mind. The two cards that bookend are 2 higher arcana, and they're reversed. It is the Teach card and the Lead card. I'm going to talk about them together because I feel like they're speaking together. And so what this often represents is someone who doesn't need to take the lead and doesn't need to be the teacher in this. I don't think that it's really you need to worry so much about your role in this. I don't think it's, what this is really talking about is your responsibility in this, and not overstepping. So really taking a step back to not take the lead in this, and not necessarily have to be the teacher in this. I don't think that this card being flipped means that you're the student and that you have things to learn. I think it's really coming across like taking a step back and allowing the process to unfold, if that makes sense. Now, I do hope that this reading is helpful, Lindsay. Let me know if you have any questions about how the messages have come out. I'm just going to quickly check my battery power here. It looks like I'm having a battery issue. I'm just going to try and fix this quickly before I go offline quickly, unexpectedly. Just a moment, please. And Lindsay, if you have any questions, just add it into the chat. Let me know. Okay, hopefully that has fixed it, and if not, I apologize if I suddenly go offline. No questions. It all makes a lot of sense. Thank you for that confirmation, Lindsay. I really appreciate that message. I'm going to put the cards away, and I'm going to move to Melissa. Melissa, if you could just let me know you're still on the call, and if you have a topic or question you'd like me to focus on, or it can be left general. Quite often when readings are left general, as we've seen, the messages that need to be heard just come out. Now, I should mention right away that if I do end up with a technical problem with my power source here and I go offline, I will be reaching out to those who have requested readings and offering them readings outside of the broadcast. So you are not going to be going without if we do disconnect. And we will just reschedule those readings at the convenience of both our availabilities, okay? Now, I really hope that doesn't happen. I do see that I connected the power. I just hope it's not too low that it won't be able to catch up, and then we'll be losing our power. Thank you very much, Melissa, for that request for a general reading. I'm going to start with that one card impression pull, and then we'll move to this deck where you'll have a top. I'll focus on that general reading. Now, Melissa, for you, I get the Nine of Pentacles reversed. It looks like this, and it represents being in the process of putting your life together in the way that you'd like to see fit. Now, quite often when this card comes out reversed, it means that there are some challenges in reaching that goal, having trouble getting to that vision of how you'd like to see your life fit. It doesn't mean that you're not going to get there. It means that you have to resolve the challenges first in order to flip this card around where you are then going towards that life the way that you'd like to see fit. It uses the depiction on the card as a person standing in their garden with their special robes and their exotic pet, and this is the way they viewed their life and what they wanted for themselves, and that's what it's often about. It's about that goal in reaching that destination. And 9 in numerology is often about reaching that goal or get to that destination, and pentacles are about the needs, what we need for ourselves. And that's where those messages are coming from within me. Now, let's start with that general reading, and we're just going to pull 3 cards from this deck, and we'll look at how those messages are associated with each other to get that insight. I feel like the cards want to be in a specific order. Now, really interesting cards have come out, a Higher Arcana and 2 Swords. I'm going to work through the swords towards this Higher Arcana. I'm not going to go in the order that they came out or the reversed order even. I'm just feeling drawn to start here. This is this 6 of Swords, and this is often about somebody who's deciding what thoughts and heavy processes serve you and which ones don't, and it's about making a decision. Which ones do you take with you, and which ones do you leave behind? And this is often a card that comes across for somebody who is leaving a destructive situation, moving on from something that was not healthy, toxic, or perhaps not good for you. And it's about leaving behind what doesn't serve you anymore and only taking with you what's going to be beneficial. You can see here it uses the depiction of like a family moving on. They're in a boat and they've collected their swords and these heavy thoughts that they have to take with them, and they're processing these heavy thoughts as they journey forward. I feel like your journey is something along those lines, Melissa. I feel like for you, you may have been through something and it's heavy on your mind still, even though you're not through it anymore, or you're not going through it anymore, and yet you have to work through those heavy thoughts, what serves you, what doesn't. Quite often, if this is like a hard situation to come from, like a difficult or challenging
situation or journey. Just know that quite often we receive a lot of positives from a negative situation in terms of like growth and development and endurance and strength. And I think you need to take some time to recognize that for yourself. What have you been through? What can you celebrate for yourself? The next card we've already kind of talked about a little bit. It is the Seven of Swords. It did not come out reversed, and so in this case, I feel like this goes hand in hand with this card. This is about deciding what you take with you and what you don't, and as you leave a situation. And this is about, again, looking at how much you can carry on this. What's too much to carry on your shoulders? How much do you have to leave behind? Only carrying as much as you can, only worrying about as much as you can carry, so to speak, in terms of these swords. Now, swords, again, heavy thoughts and intellect. With two swords back to back like this, I just feel like they're connected, and also we have the 6 and the 7. So I feel like there's a development here. There's a journey, like a progress. Oh, thank you for that message, Melissa. Just that I'm bang on with these cards, messages. I really appreciate that. Just letting me know I'm on the right track. Now, the next card I think is going to be the most helpful. It is the Higher Arcana, which is usually the theme and more important message, which is why I wanted to lead up to it. It is the Hangman card. Even though the Hangman in the picture is reversed, this card is not reversed. And so that often represents somebody who's not necessarily stuck, even though they feel stuck. You can see here from the imagery on the card, that person doesn't look stuck. They just look like they're trying to make themselves as comfortable as possible before they're untied, before they're cut down. And that's really what's happening here. I think it's really about you may feel stuck, or that there aren't options, or that the options are limited, but yet you will realize for yourself at some point that there are options, or that you're not really stuck and you're just basically waiting to be rescued, similar to this Hangman. Now, if the card came out this way reversed, I would think, yes, you are definitely feeling stuck. You are definitely feeling like you can't move forward, or something could be holding you back even. So just know that, have some encouragement. I think if you feel stuck, it may be perhaps you putting that on your head, and that could be something that doesn't serve you, that you can let go of, because there could be options around you, or things will unfold in a way that you maybe don't anticipate. Now, I'm wondering how I can extend on this reading further. Um, I'm thinking about my Zen deck. I'm going to try and find it here quickly. My Zen deck works great at referencing the interaction that's going on within a reading. And if I focus on your reading here with that intention, it may give us great insight in terms of what's happening for you with this amount of, heavy thoughts to have to go through in this situation that you're leaving behind. Why do you feel stuck? That's really what I'm narrowing in on. I'd like to know the interaction with this feeling stuck. Now, 3 cards have come out. Really interesting. 2 fire cards and a water card. This would be like equivalent to wands and cups in tarot. So these are about actions and emotions. Um, I'm going to start with the emotions. It's really about setting yourself free. You can see here in the image that this bird that was behind the bars is being freed and joining the others in the sky. And that's what this feels like. It's really about freeing yourself in some way emotionally. This could be about letting go. Some of these thoughts that you are walking away from, or that don't serve you, could be the bars. They're what's holding you back. And if you can let them go and put them behind you, you're going to open up those bars and free yourself, just like a bird. Now, the first action that I want to talk about is the totality card. It is the 5 of fire. 5 in numerology represents that halfway point. If you think about it from a journey of 0 to 10, when you get to 5, you have just as much effort to get to the goal as you do as turning around and going back to the drawing board. And so keeping in mind that when we reach that point, it's really about making a choice. Do you reach the goal, or do you go back? And it's about giving all, like 110%. You have to give all totality. More than 100% has to go into this to make it work. And it uses the depiction of like acrobats, sky acrobats or air acrobats, where they're swinging and catching each other. And notice how there's no safety net. So it's really about high risk, giving it all that you need to, making this work the way it needs to, and making it probably making it look easy while it's a really challenging thing to do. Now, also, you have the playfulness card. Now, this is equivalent to a Knight of Wands. It's often about that action that needs to be taken, important action. And what's really coming across is to be more playful. Don't take this so seriously. Start having some fun. Maybe not allowing these heavy thoughts to hold you back that determine your mood, or making sure that you're finding the joy out of situations. I think this is really more about self-development and self-empowerment than anything else. I do hope that this is helpful, Melissa. Let me know if you have any questions, or if any of that is helpful, or if any of it doesn't seem to fit, just let me know. Um, I'm going to move on in a moment to Megan. Megan, if you're on the call, just let me know if you have a question or topic, or if you'd like to keep it general for your reading. And thank you so much, Melissa, for letting me do your reading for you. When I look at this reading and I bring it back to where you are now, it makes sense to me that this is all about empowerment and self-development. When I go back to where you're sitting in the moment now, this vision for yourself. Thank you for that message, Melissa. This is also very on point. I really hope that it's helpful. I'm going to put the cards away and decharge them and get ready for Megan. Megan, if you're on the call, just let me know. And if you have a question or topic, or I'll leave it general. If there's any issues or connection issues where I may have lost someone on the call, I'll continue through with the reading in hopes that they return, because these readings are recorded and posted later on my social media as well as on my website. And they can all be accessed on my website. You can even go into the history of the Tarot Talk Live event and look through the 2 or 3 years of episodes that I've done. Oh, thank you so much, Megan, for your message. I am still here. Perfect. I'm going to start with a 1-card impression pull for you. It's just going to let us know where you're sitting energetically in the moment, and then I will focus on a topic or question that you might have, or leaving it general. Just let me know your preference. Now, for you in the moment, Megan, I get the Ace of Cups reversed. This is often about not changing how you feel. It's about determining how you feel and knowing that what you feel is okay and doesn't need to be changed, or you're not accepting some new way to be, new way to feel, or a new emotion, perhaps. If the card was this way, it would be about feeling or exploring some new emotion or new way to feel. So I don't know if you're avoiding this new way to feel, or if it's just not fitting for you. And so quite often this card represents, like, it's okay to feel the way you do. You don't have to make that change in your emotions. I think it's really important to understand our emotions for how they happen. And so if it's important for you to go through this process, I would stick to it. Now, do you have a topic or question you'd like me to focus on? I'm just looking through the messages here. Now, I can leave it general, which would, oh, there we go. I see your message there just popped up, general. So I'm going to do that. We're going to leave it general as you requested, and which means that we're just going to pull 3 cards and see how they relate together to get those messages that need to be heard today. Now, interesting. You have Wands, Pentacles, Swords, and Cups. All suits are on the table. And I think that's important to highlight, because that's standing out for me at this point, that whatever this reading is about, it's not compartmentalized into one portion of your life. It is overflowing and affecting all the different areas of your life. I'm going to just go in the order that they came out. We have seen some of these cards come out already, but in a different way. And so I'll talk about that. This is the 7 of Swords reversed. And it's basically saying to stop carrying more than you can handle. Stop putting so much on your head that you have to get overwhelmed by the amount of thought processes that you're going through. You want to be careful carrying more than what you can. Um, Seven in numerology is often about spiritual development, and the swords represent heavy thoughts and intellect. So when you have heavy thoughts in regards to what you need for yourself, it can be about making that decision in terms of how you achieve it and what the correct process for you is, and that can help you determine whether you're carrying too much, what you need to let go of, making that balance for yourself. Now, the Knight of Pentacles is the next card I want to talk about. It's also reversed. Pentacles represent needs for ourselves, either health or finances. And what's really standing out for me is the armor of the Knight itself. So this is often about protecting ourselves. You're either protecting your finances or you're protecting your health. I do get a sense it's a bit about finances, and it's about not being able to take action in terms of those decisions, almost like you're being held back from some financial action that needs to be taken. And just note that when you figure out what needs to be resolved or that missing information, that's when this card flips around and you can then take action. But in the meantime, it looks like this. Now, I have a feeling this is based on some indecision that's happening, because the next card is the Two of Wands. Now, as I mentioned earlier, wands in tarot represent those actions, and two is often about indecision or partnership. In this case, I feel like it's about a choice, and it's about choosing the action that leads to your future and having to understand how that unravels before you get there, or before that decision is made. That can be a difficult place to sit in, because how do you know what to choose if you have to foresee the outcome first? And so it's really about understanding the choice really well and analyzing all the information that you can. Now, this card did not come out reversed, and so that tells me that you're able to make this choice. You're not held back from it. It's just a matter of making the right choice for yourself to get that determined goal. Does this make sense, Megan? Let me know if you have any questions. I am wondering how to extend further. I am drawn to using my heart chakra deck again. As I mentioned, this deck gives great insight in terms of what we need for ourselves. And if I apply that to this reading, it may give good advice moving forward. There does seem to be some indecision and some heavy on your mind, and how it affects your entire world here. I think may be important to look at what you need for yourself involved in what's happening. I do hope that that makes sense. Let me know if you have questions. I'm going to get started with that extended oracle pull here. Now, all three cards came out reversed, and so I feel like this may not be the easiest advice to follow. So just keep that in mind, okay? I'm going to start, I'm just being pulled to the cards. Again, they're all different suits. So again, this is like impacting different parts of your life. It's not just compartmentalized. That's just confirmation for me that of how chaotic this kind of is. This is the Seven of Earth. Seven in numerology is often about spiritual guidance and how we spiritually develop ourselves. And the color tells me that it's Earth, which is about grounding and what we need for ourselves. And when it's daydreams and decisions reversed, it's often about um, not not envisioning something that is fantastical, really keeping it to reality. I think what this is really saying is that you're a very grounded person and you see things realistically. And I think that this card speaks really well in terms of knowing what you want for yourself. You are not the type of person that fantasizes something that's not achievable. You have realistic outcomes and expectations. And that's where I think that card is really speaking to. And the next card is the Two of uh, Action or Fire reverse. And this card is often about finding balance. And when it's reversed like this, it's basically saying that it may not be in your control to create that balance. It could be just dealing with the things that are happening around you. And the balance really needs to be found internally, not necessarily externally. So as this stuff around you seems chaotic, the balance that's really required is within you. And that brings me to my next card, the clarity of belief reversed. I think you understand yourself really well, and that's why this card is reversed. It's basically saying to trust yourself. You don't need to gain a clarity of belief in yourself. I think you already believe. It's just a matter of putting that energy into the universe and having it manifest. Intend your intentions. I think you have an ability of manifesting your dreams if you put your attention into reality. Really go for those goals. I do hope that this is helpful, Megan. Let me know if you have any questions. Um, when I bring this reading right back to where you are now, not changing how you feel or not changing the way you feel, I think is going to be really important through this. Right now, you feel like you're not having to change yourself. And I think that's important in the messages that have come out in the advice in terms of finding that clarity for yourself, creating that balance from within and knowing that you are realistic in this. Oh, thank you for that feedback, Megan. Amazing info. Thanks. It really is true. I appreciate that, just knowing that I'm on the right track here, that I'm connecting with the right energies. So, thank you, Megan, for letting me do your reading for you. And I have Meg next on the list. Meg, if you're still on the call, let me know. And if you have a topic or question you'd like me to focus on, I'm just going to take a moment to clear and cleanse the cards and get ready for the next reading. Now, anyone else who may be on the call and interested to receive a reading tonight, just let me know. I do have one more spot available. You're very welcome, Megan. I very much appreciate you receiving a reading from me and coming to join us on the live. Thank you, Meg. I do see you there. Awesome. General reading. Absolutely. I will start with that one card impression pull, and then we'll go right into that 3-card draw for that general reading. Oh, I feel like this is ready quickly. Now, Meg, we have the Devil card that's come out for your energy in the moment. Now, don't fret. This doesn't impact you or say anything evil or bad. What this is really about is an adversary that you're up against. There's some sort of adversary in the moment in which you, like in the moment, there's an adversary in your energy. So if you feel like you're up against someone else, that's what this card would represent. If this card comes up at a time where you don't feel like there's an adversary, the adversary may be within you. Okay, quite often we can be our worst enemies in terms of maybe direction that we're taking or choices we have to make, or maybe we overthink things, and sometimes we can be the adversary. So just keep that in mind. What's really standing out for me is the main being itself, not necessarily the people that it has captured, so to speak. And so I feel like that could be more appropriate, that this is really about adversary within you. There's something about you that maybe needs to change or that is holding you back. Now I'm going to go into that 3-card pull for that general reading. Let me know if you have questions about that or that makes sense, Meg. You're very welcome, Megan. Thank you for that message again there. Meg, now in Meg's reading, really interesting cards have come out. They're all suits and all different suits, swords, pentacles, wands, with a higher arcana in your in the impression of where you're on now. Oh, thank you, Meg, letting me know that this is spot on, and you were going to say that you think it's me. So yes, the adversary is it. So you agree then that there's something within you that maybe needs to change or that's holding you back. I'm going to go through these cards in the reverse order that they came out. I just feel drawn to doing that. 2 cards are reversed and one's not. I'm going to start with the sword. This is the reversed page of swords. It represents the not being able to not being able to get the ball rolling, not being able to get this started in terms of the heavy thought that's on your mind. There's something that's sort of holding you back, like anticipation to get started, or usually the page is what gets people in the right direction. They're usually the messengers of the court in tarot, where the king and queens are the decision makers, and they give the message to the page, which then delivers it to the knight, and the knight gets the action started. And so the page is often about getting that ball rolling, coming up with that new idea, getting into that new direction. And this is based on that heavy thought that's on your mind. And when it's reversed, you're having trouble switching tracks or getting into that new direction. Now, you have another page that's also reversed, and it's the page of Pentacles. Pentacles represent either health or finances. Usually it's our needs and what we need for ourselves. And what's really standing out for me in the card itself is the hat. It's really about the mindset of these topics. And I feel like it could be related to both health and finances, because not only is the coin standing out for me, but also the patch on his arm. And that could be about like security and grounding for yourself. And when it's reversed, it's like not being able to get into that mindset, or not being able to switch tracks or get into that direction in terms of what you need for yourself and these heavy thoughts that are on your mind. Now, what I think is really good about this is the next card, which is the King of Rods. It did not come out reversed. It looks like this, and this is often for somebody who can make these decisions in terms of the actions you need to take. Rods represent actions in tarot, and kings as the decision makers. Kings are usually more forceful. These are important decisions, and there are often consequences involved in making these kinds of decisions of the king. Notice how it's not reversed. And so you're able to sit in this throne and make these decisions, even though you're not sure where it's headed, or perhaps you're unsure about the direction that needs to be changed or made. I think it's these decisions that are going to move you in these new directions once you decide. That explains to me as well what you're up against. This adversary may be you in all this indecision. You may be overthinking things, or you may be needing to really give this a lot of thought. Um, it's this I feel like it's the unknowns that maybe hold you back, not being able to get into that new direction. I think that this change that's coming may be difficult, and that these decisions bring that change. So there could be some anticipation about this, and that is leading to this adversary. Now I'm wondering how I can expand on this further. Given that you seem to be the adversary in this, I'm wondering if it would be helpful to gain those messages that need to be heard from deep within. This is my Witch's Wisdom deck. It gives great insight in terms of what needs to be brought to the surface and worked on. And so I wonder if that would be helpful in terms of what's happening here, on given just how these messages have come out. So I'm going to focus on that itself. I'm using this deck to ask, um, to extend on this reading further on what messages you need to hear for yourself. And I'm focusing it on your energy in the moment of this adversary that you're up against. So really interesting cards have come out. We have the Craftsman of Fire, and I'm going to get started with that because it's really about creating for yourself what you want for yourself. It's really about determining the actions that you need, and sometimes it's about just creating the action for yourself that's required. And I think this is a great card to come out because the Craftsman of Fire is often about taking action that we need for ourselves, and really making it work and putting in that hard work. Now, the Craftsman of Fire is hard work to put in regarding what needs to have happen. So just keep that in mind, that you may need to give this a lot of effort. Um, the Craftsman of Water is right beside that. And I find this really interesting because um, there just seems to be um, a whole lot about where you're headed. I think there's a lot of indecision and unknowns around this, um, because the craftsman is equal to the page. You have all the pages on the table for every suit. The page of sword, the page of pentacles, the craftsman of fire, which is equivalent to the page of wands, and the craftsman of water, which is equivalent to the page of cups. I find that really fascinating. I think, again, not only does that highlight this affecting every area of your life because every element is appearing on the table, but also every page is appearing on the table. And for me, in the tarot structure that I follow in terms of the technique of the path, I see that as fundamental in terms of choosing the right direction for yourself. I almost feel like you're going through some sort of transition. This adversary that you're up against, when you defeat this adversary and you can turn this card around and put that adversary behind you, I have a feeling this is going to lead to a huge enlightenment for you. Um, um, Almost like an awakening. In the meantime, it looks like this. You got to get past this adversary within yourself. Now, the next card, I think, is the more important message for you, Meg, and it's the Higher Arcana, so it's more the theme of this reading, and it's the Strength card. It did not come out reversed. It looks like this, and it represents exactly that, internal strength. You have this internal strength for yourself. What this card is telling me is you may not realize how strong you actually are. There could be a lot of strength in you that you will discover for yourself, and it's about connecting with that internal strength to be empowered. And you can see that in the imagery. This person is not using physical strength to tame these animals. They're using their internal strength, and they're using their intuitive sense with these animals and connecting with them on a relationship level. And that's what I'm talking about. It's about that internal strength. And I see you as like, this card does not appear on the table for someone who doesn't have that strength within them. So I'm wondering if you understand that strength, and maybe you need to realize how strong you actually are for yourself. That makes sense to me in terms of what you could be doing to hold yourself back. This adversary could be you not believing in your own strength. I do hope that this is helpful, Meg. Let me know if you have any questions or any comments in terms of what may not have fit within this reading. Um, when I look at this reading as a whole, I think you just want to be careful that you're not allowing this to overspill into other areas of your life. It does seem like a challenge in time, but also there seems to be such potential moving forward. Thank you so much for letting me do your reading. Like I said, any questions, feel free to put them into the chat. Oh, thank you so much. Hi, Sonia. Absolutely. I could quickly draw a card for you right before we end here. I'll just put the cards away, and that will be my last reading for tonight. And anyone else who may be interested in a reading, I can add you to my draw that's happening on Monday. I'm just clearing and decharging the decks, and then I'll get right started with you, Sonia. Oh, thank you so much for that message, Meg. This is really applicable. Am I better off to jump instead of overthink? Thank you so much. That's an interesting question. Given how the cards have come out, I think overthinking is probably it could be one of the challenges in that adversary. So I would just be careful overthinking. Really take the time to understand the options and opportunities that you have around you. Then jump. I hope that makes sense, Meg. Okay, Sonia, let me know if you have a topic or question you'd like me to focus on, or if I can leave it general for you. I'll start the reading with a 1-card impression pull from this deck, and that'll just tell me where you're sitting energetically in the moment. And then I'll move to this other deck, my Morgan Greer deck, where I'll focus on a topic or question that you might have, or if you want to leave it general, we'll look at the messages that needed to be received tonight. Sonia, for you in the moment, I get the Emperor card. This is often for somebody who has to take on some sort of responsibility. Now, this type of responsibility with the Emperor is usually determined. It's not an easy path to take in terms of responsibility, but you're completely able to do this. I mean, if this card was reversed, I would be thinking that you're avoiding this responsibility or not wanting to sit in the throne of the Emperor. And so with the card being this way, I think it's something that you can handle, or something that you can sit in the throne of the Emperor and take on that responsibility. Let me know if this makes sense. Quite often when this card comes out for a 1-card impression pull, it can mean that somebody is feeling a sense of that responsibility of what they're up against. A general, absolutely. Whatever pops up, for sure. What I'll do is I'll pull 3 cards and we'll see what pops up out of that. I feel like these cards are already speaking here. So really interesting cards have come out for you, Sonia. All elements. We have wands, we have pentacles, we have swords. I'm just going to go in the order that they came out. I just feel drawn to that. This is the 2 of swords. It did not come out reversed. Here's the way the card looks. And it's really about indecision. It's about having to choose based on what's heavy on your mind without having all the information. You can see here that this person has their 2 swords, heavy thoughts and intellect to choose from, and they're blindfolded, so they don't have all the information that they should in order to make this decision based on what's heavy on their mind. Now, what's really standing out for me in the card is this crescent moon that's kind of very hidden in the background there. And that tells me that you have an intuitive sense that you can trust. You may need to rely on your intuition to make this decision, even though you don't have all the information you need. You can rely on that intuitive sense to fill in the gap. Now, the next card is the 4 of Pentacles. It did not come out reversed, and it often represents finding that grounding and security in terms of what you need for yourself. Now, this feels like financial. The coins are really standing out for me, as well as the crown. And what that can often represent is creating that financial security for yourself. Also, the wall, the brick wall, the brick style itself is really standing out. And so that would also represent creating a foundation, probably protecting your finances and holding them secure. Now, the next card is the 5 of Wands. Wands represent the actions that need to be taken, and 5 is often about an indecision when it's reversed. It's about not being able to decide if you continue on to that goal or do you start back at the beginning. And when it's reversed with the 5 of Wands, it can mean no longer being up against these other actions that work against you. This almost feels like, I don't want to call it competition, or when your actions are up against other people's actions. It's not competition, but it almost feels like opinionated, like other people's opinions of what you should do versus what they do and how they don't match with what you're doing. Whereas, and that's what you're up against. Whereas this is like avoiding that confrontation. So I think as long as you hold your own, I think that's the important message out of this. And that's going to help you take on this responsibility that we're talking about. I do hope that this is helpful. I'm wondering how I can extend on this reading further, given that it's about the Emperor and taking on some sort of responsibility in the moment of your energy. I'm wondering if it would be helpful to look at this from a heart chakra standpoint. I think that might be helpful. I've used this deck already tonight, so you may be familiar if you've been watching the live from the beginning, but it really does well at connecting with what someone needs for themselves, speaking from a heart chakra standpoint. So if I apply that to this reading, it may give good insight on how you can direct yourself through this. So I'm just going to focus on that keeping in mind the energies right from the beginning of this reading. Two higher arcanas and a suit. Now, the suit is the like emotion in tarot. It's like the equivalent to a cup, and it's like often about not having to decide between the emotions. It's basically the spread your wings card reversed. And I think that this is an important message. It's not trying to discourage you from spreading your wings. It's saying to just be empowered. I think it's more about internally than it is about externally doing something for yourself. When the cards like this, it's often about spreading your wings, taking action in order to walk that path, and it leads to a light. When it's this way, it's about saying that you're like already there. You don't have to walk this path, that you already are enlightened. You just have to connect with that internal self. You just have to, I think you have the experience you need in order to have this responsibility. And I also think you have what it takes in terms of that energetic, what's required. Now, the two higher arcana cards are really interesting. We have the third eye chakra and we have the seek card. And I do feel like they're speaking together, so I'm going to show them together. Now, the seek card is often about finding inner peace, finding that acknowledgement or connection with nature. It's how we find that enlightenment within ourselves. 9 in numerology is about reaching that end goal, finding that the destination. And the higher arcana of this tarot deck represents that, like I said, finding that grounding, that inner peace. This can be done through any kind of spiritual activity. Sometimes people do this through connecting with nature, going for walks, yoga, meditation. There's many different ways that this can be implemented. And what it's really saying is just find your inner peace, find that sacred space where you can quiet down your mind and let go of things, even for a moment. And third eye chakra is often about how we envision things and finding a balance in that. What I mean by that balance is when we work with intuition and envisioning things, you want to make sure that it's balanced in terms of what isn't, what's not reality, in terms of like over visioning. You know, you may have anticipation or expectation and or fantasy perhaps, and then there's not visioning enough, not believing in your intuition perhaps, or not listening to that thought process. So finding the balance. What's the perfect amount of balance? What's the right amount of intuition where you can trust your instincts, follow your intuition, and receive those messages or visions? And that's what this card represents. It's about working on that. And because it didn't come out reversed, I think you are working on this, Sonia. You are working on connecting with your intuition and trusting those instincts. There's just I think you're working on it. You're not there yet, and that's why the card is appearing. Now, if this came out reversed, it would mean that that balance is completely out of whack and that it's not really working for you right now. So just know that I think you're on the right path. You're creating this balance. It's just there's work to be done to maintain it. I do hope that this is helpful, Sonia. If you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to add them in the chat. And thank you so much for everyone for letting me do your readings for you. I really appreciate you joining me on this Tarot Talk Live event. The live broadcast happens monthly, so watch for upcoming events on my website. Again, the next Tarot Talk Live event will be happening on Tuesday, February 11th, 2025. It starts about 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, similar to tonight. And that Tarot Talk topic is going to be about conjoint couple readings. So really enjoyed tonight, really enjoyed meeting some new faces as well as recognizing some familiar faces. And anyone who is interested to get involved in the draw, just please feel free to reach out to me to request, or you can like, comment, or share any social media posts that mentions the draw. Watch on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok about all of that information. And you can always get all of that information as well on my website, staffordtarot.com. Thank you for that message of confirmation there, Sonia. I really appreciate that. Uh, yes, that you're working hard on the healing other people helps me. That's awesome. Just keep that focus. I think you're more determined than you think, and you can take on that responsibility. Good night, Alex. Thanks for joining. Uh, Again, anyone else wants to join the draw, just let me know, and check my website for those upcoming events and special new features that are coming out. I'm always updating the website at staffordtarot.com. Take good care, everybody. Uh, Bright blessings, and I will see you at the next Tarot Talk on Tuesday, February 11th, 2025. And if you want to join me, get to know me, or have a meeting together, feel free to join the SMC virtual gathering that happens on every Wednesday at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. There's a registration that just helps avoid insincere entry so we don't get scammers or Zoom bombers into the meeting. It just creates that maintained, safe environment for everybody. All the information is available on my website, staffordtarot.com. Have a good night. Take good care.